Oh, hey out there. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Pulpit for July the 17th, 2023. Hard to believe half the summer is over, and it's just kind of crazy. Memorial Day came, Labor Day's fast approaching, and here we are. If you are a fan of Behind the Pulpit and you were watching our live version earlier, just so you know, we are on our third take actually now for Behind the Pulpit, and we just had a little bit of technical difficulties today.
It's been a bad day.
We are still excited to be here. My name's Bob Urbig. I'm one of the pastors here at Millington Baptist Church. Behind the Pulpit is our weekly podcast where we discuss theology, we discuss what's going on in culture, we talk about church life, and it's an exciting 30 minutes, and we hope that you stick with us for the rest of our time today. I feel like I do some false advertising if you watch if you look at the thumbnail, you see me and my co-pastor, Dave Henschel. Dave's on sabbatical this summer, and so I've been kind of flying solo, except I've had some really fun guests, and today is no exception. I am super excited to be joined by my good friend, the one, the only,
Delia Kang.
Delia.
Hi, happy Monday.
Happy Monday, yeah. Welcome to Behind the Pulpit. Thanks for weathering through and storming through here.
Yeah.
We're so glad that you're with us today.
It's been great. I feel like summer doesn't go faster than when you have 4 kids. And since I have 4 kids.
And do you have 4 kids?
It's been flying by. I feel like just when we get started with the day, it's over. So I totally feel you with like summer flying by.
I know it's going crazy. So Delia, tell us a little bit about you and your family. For those of you that are out there, Delia has been up front doing a lot of really fun things, and I'm excited that she's actually here with us today, which was not an easy effort. I mean, I'm sure you had to move your schedules and get things ready to be on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
So I am married to my amazing husband, Stan. For 16 years.
Stan, if you're watching, she said amazing husband, just so you know.
He is amazing. He really is. And I have 4 kids. My oldest is a teenager this year. And he's a fabulous kid, but I am just like, I cannot believe that I am a mother to a teenager. It just makes me feel older than I think it should. And I have 2 amazing daughters, a 10-year-old and a 8-year-old. And then I have what I call a baby, but he is 5 years old already. Time is flying by.
So you're juggling a lot of responsibilities, people in different stages of life. That is 8 years is a long spread.
Yes. It's been it's every day is really hard, but it's so true that every day is full and long, but the years are flying by. So I'm trying to like hold on to it and really enjoy it and enjoy each season of it. But yeah, we had I know we're going to talk about VBS, but we had a really busy weekend.
Yeah.
My kids play rugby.
Well, rugby, and you were mentioning before you had some weather warnings tbe right?
Oh, yeah. So I was like, okay, I won't be able to sleep in on Saturday, but we'll go to the late service on Sunday, and that will I'll be able to sleep in a little bit from our long week. And then I got a tornado warning at 4:45 in the morning.
What?
For anyone in Hunterdon County, I'm sure you guys got the same warning.
Did you actually see a tornado? Were you getting ready to be transported to Kansas with Dorothy and all that?
Well, I feel like I didn't know what to do because I'm used to the flash flooding, hurricane weather. You kind of know what to do if your power goes out. But I was like, it says to take shelter and all this kind of stuff. And then come to find out it actually landed in White House. So there was a tornado. It did actually hit and landed. So,
whoa.
I mean, I'm not going to take them lightly, but at the same time, at 4:45, it is hard to get yourself up and moving that early. So
my mind was just blown. There was a tornado that landed in White House, which is 20 minutes that way, that way or that way.
I mean, I'm not trying to get all apocalyptic, but I mean between tornadoes and smoke,
we had fires from Canada. We got artificial intelligence. I don't know. I'm just saying that's a little crazy.
We got to get our lives together and find Jesus for sure. If you haven't, because
it's a great time to start a podcast.
It is a great time to start a podcast, right?
But needless to say, I slept in a little bit this morning because I wasn't able to catch up with much sleep the last couple of days. So I was thankful.
Well, good
for that.
I'm glad you were able to sleep. Well, if you don't know, so Delia, and we are going to pivot now to kind of some stuff that's happening within the life of our church. We did have VBS this week. Delia was up front helping to lead that. that. One of the other things I want to mention that you may have seen Delia on was our Contend Conference, and I got a gift from Chris Dowden this week. It was a new Contend Conference logo thing right here. You probably can't zoom in there, but man, this was just, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to hang it up somewhere as I get ready for the next one coming up here, probably in like 18, 24 months, something like that.
That was so much fun working Contend and doing that. And
it was a lot of work.
You're already thinking about the next one and stuff, so that was it. But so VBS.
Let's talk VBS. How did VBS go this week?
So Jen Dowden has been the MC for VBS for 12 years, she was saying.
12 years in a row.
So,
wow.
In a row. She does, I've been helping out probably for 4 or 5 years, so just being able to see how it runs and get behind the scenes, it was really cool. But she has brought the magic every year. She kind of leads the kids in the beginning and the end. So like I had to come in and try to step it up and make sure that I had, it together. But she does such a great job. So I helped out with the hosting and emceeing that part. And kids
So you're saying the magic was transferred. Did she sprinkle some like pixie dust on you, like Tinkerbell? Or
she's so gracious. She filled in all the ways that I did it and couldn't do and stuff. So she was great. But kids are no joke. They're ready for VBS, and you gotta be high energy.
It's VBS week.
VBS week. Did you grow up doing VBS when you were a kid?
I did. I mentioned earlier that I remember going to VBS as a kid, and we had like the puppet shows. Like I feel like that was like a 1980s, 90s thing. Yeah. Live puppets, they were coming out. The puppets were talking to you. There was a bee called Buzzy the Bee, which I was reminded of this week because I got stung for the first time in a long time, and I can still take a bee sting. But it brought me back to my VBS days growing up.
Yeah. So VBS is like for my kids, they look forward to it. They count down the days. We listen to the music going up to it and stuff. So I'll give to give you some perspective. So from the participant child, it was just such a fun week. The way that it's run here, they go to different stations, from Imagination Station, where they get to do these really creative invention, science project-y kind of things. Noah,
I saw some of the guys were wearing like Einstein hair.
Yeah, that was James. He did a great job with that, and they all had lab coats and stuff. So, it was like the real deal and stuff.
Yes.
So that's like my kid's favorite station. Noah and Austin and James did such a great job there. But they go from 20-25 minutes from one station to another, just doing different things, from the Bible Adventure to KidVid Cinema.
And they're running outside for rec. That was actually one of my favorite parts of VBS growing up, was always rec. We'd play kickball or whatever it was.
Yeah. My favorite is the connection crew, and it just allows the kids to get to know each other, make friends and stuff. So it's a fabulous week. And, Rachel told us that 25 kids came to know
25 kids came to know the Lord this weekend. So
praise the
this
Lord.
week,
that
really
was
cool,
awesome.
really cool.
And my son, my teenager, and I served for the week. We never slept better. We got amazing sleep all week because we were so tired by the end of it. And it gave him, you should have seen how many teenagers came out to help. It was amazing.
There was a lot. I was doing people were picking up their kids, and there was like a mountain of teenagers behind me bringing the kids out to the cars. It was really well organized.
Yeah, really well organized. The teenagers got to connect and serve together, serve their church so well. So that was really great. And as an adult volunteer, I was able to meet some of the other people from Millington that I don't get to chat with and know. And so I made 2 new friends myself this week, and I'm excited to get to know them better and stuff too. So overall, just an amazing week. It's a testament to Rachel's leadership here. She is a fabulous leader. She gave us all our jobs. She encouraged us all week. She leads with grace, and she serves so well as well. So to put together 170 kids and 80 volunteers, it's a lot of people. It's a lot. It's an intense project, and she did it so well.
Yeah. So Rachel, if you're watching this late, Rachel was supposed to be here today, but she had to call out. Yeah. Delia's giving you some props over here. Great leader.
You were amazing.
There you go.
And friend.
And there you go. All right. Well, it was an awesome week of VBS. So thank you so much. If those of you that are watching, if you helped out this week, a big thank you to helping that be just a really super successful program. I had people coming when they were picking up their kids. They were saying, "We can't wait till next year. Yeah. What are we going to do for the next 51 weeks until it's time to come back?" So that's a testament to the experience that everybody had. So thank you so much.
Yeah, were you able to like still get work done up in your office, or having all these kids like roaming through the buildings and stuff?
There's always a little bit less work that gets done on those weeks, but there was some that got done.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Rachel spared me a little bit this week. All right, so that was Summer Adventure VBS. Let me pivot to one other thing I want to mention before we move on, and that is that if you are on our YouTube channel and you're watching this, hopefully you know we have some other offerings, some other teaching offerings. One of the things I've been plugging is something called Wednesdays in the Word, and that's our there you go. That is our very own Noah Graves, who has been doing that as part of his internship project this summer. These are kind of short devotional videos. There's going to be 10 of them all told when he's done. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, the theme has been unity. Go first of all, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, click subscribe wherever the button is, and then you can go check out the playlist and you can see Noah's teaching series there. He's just been doing a great job with that, and Tim has been editing, and so you will definitely be blessed. See, Noah, I let them know they better watch.
Yes,
on that later
awesome.
on.
It's like there's something for everybody, depending on what you're
something for everybody. That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what's going on at NBC. I'd like to pivot now to our segment on culture that we're calling In the News. In the News, Behind the Pulpit, In the News. And we're going to move on to a couple things that's going on right here. All right, so there we go. So Delia, I let you know that we do this segment, and you were the one who brought the news story you heard this week.
Yes.
And this was a really interesting one, although I think it's becoming more and more popular. So let me read the headline, and I think there's a slide for this. The headline was this, from Fortune magazine: Tech CEO who takes 61 pills a day and eats 70 pounds of veggies a month. He does this to stay young forever, and he says he's never been happier. I pity the previous version of me.
A little intense when you say 61 pills a day. I mean, like, just the pills themselves.
Yeah, why did this catch your eye? Were you thinking I'm not taking enough pills every day?
No, I just was thinking about how I take my my vitamins, right? And like that's
how many vitamins do you take?
There's like 4 because it's like a multivitamin.
All right.
I take some like supplements that I take, but like 61. And the article goes on to talk about how he's being monitored all day with what he eats, how he eats, and his goal. The goal is to try to take some years off of his life.
Yeah, I can see that. So, but 61 pills. I feel like all you're doing all day is taking pills, though.
Right.
Like what, every hour is he taking like 5 pills an hour? That's so
like,
many.
How does he work? How does he? I mean, go. It seems like he's on such a regiment. So maybe he does 10 every few hours. I don't know exactly, but when I read this, I just thought it was absurd. And then the 70 pounds of vegetables.
Well, yeah, we probably all could eat more vegetables, but 70 pounds, that's a lot of vegetables. That's like twice two of my daughter. Like she weighs like 35 pounds. 2 of my daughter are taking of vegetables every month.
Yeah. So have you done anything that intense to keep young now that we're now that we're a certain age or a little older?
Yeah. Well, okay. So all right. So last summer we did try to do a vegan diet for a bit, so more plant-based stuff, which I did feel better, but I will say that it was a little harder to keep muscle on. So we're doing a new thing now that's incorporating in some more protein, and that's definitely helping the muscle come on there. We are doing some research into increasing vitamin gaps that we have. So. But it's not 61 pills a day. A day. That's not a month. That's a day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
One of the things that he talked about in there was that, first of all, he's never been happier. So, maybe when you're feeling really good, you have that sense. But
there is something to be said about that. Feeling better.
Feeling good. You're gonna. It definitely relates to how you're feeling. Inside. But he said he never has a cheat day. And Never ever. And it just caught me thinking about, like, what couldn't I live without? And right now, it's like Mexican street corn. Have you had Mexican street corn?
I haven't. I mean, is that like from Nacho Libre?
No,
like on the
it's so delicious. I made it for a couple barbecues, and now it's like what I think about. But I couldn't do something where, like, I couldn't at least have one day to eat, like, some of the things that I enjoy, like, even if they're healthier options. But to have someone dictate so, like, specifically what you can eat and how to eat is just a little bit.
So did this catch your eye because you're thinking more now about what you're eating, or like why was this headline like top of your list for what to talk about?
I mean, I've talked to you about how I turned 40 this year, so I'm a little bit more thinking about.
I'm there too. I hear you.
Thinking about keeping high levels of energy and eating better, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I hear you. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about some of the worldview implications he has here. So first, I think, and I'll mention two things, and then you can chime in. I think first, it is a good thing to want to steward your health well, and I think a lot of people don't think about that as much as they should. So when you're younger, you feel like you're invincible. You can eat anything, and there's like no consequences. But as you get older, especially, what you eat, you're gonna feel it a little bit more. And so Scripture talks about our bodies being a temple, and I think we think about that from a few different angles. But when it comes to what we eat, my wife will always tell me, what you eat directly affects your mood and how you feel. And I was always like, I don't know about that, but it really is true.
It is.
What you put in your body, there's going to be consequences if you're not careful. And then okay, so that's the first thing. And then secondly, so his stated goal in this headline is he wants to stay young forever.
Yeah, 5 years. So supposedly, how he's done this for however many times has taken away 5 years of his life.
Okay.
Or no, not taken away. Given him 5.
Right. So is this like he's thinking now that the 61 pills, the veggies, is that now like the fountain of youth, essentially? He's going to stay young forever.
He's trying to find the formula that's going to keep him from aging as quickly or,
What's interesting, I find, when I've done mission trips in other countries, I think there is more of a venerable place for those that are older. And in the United States, we tend to idolize youth. Like, so the goal to stay young forever, like we even have stores like Forever 21, which I don't know about you. It would be nice to have the metabolism of a 21-year-old, but if I was like 21 forever, I think, I'm not sure I think that would be a good thing.
Right.
I was happy to leave 21 behind,
Yes, me too.
So.
Yeah, and I just thought it's like, as Christians, we understand the importance to taking care of our bodies, but we are and should be more eternally minded as well, and just looking forward to heaven and stuff. And that's just my perspective, is just to think, we got to have some balance. And so this was just showed me how the opposite end of how maybe we should be thinking about things.
Right. Well, I will point out, Paul talks about this. 1 Corinthians 15 is the key passage. At the end, he does specifically talk about us getting new resurrection bodies in the new heavens and the new earth. So the reality of being young forever, I think there is some truth to that, but it is this new resurrection, incorruptible body that we get if we know Christ in the new heavens and the new earth.
Right.
So the point of that, though, is not to stay young forever on this earth, but that we are eternally minded for where ultimately history is moving and where God is going to be taking us in the future.
Right. My goal, I hope, is to be a blessing for a very long time to my family, my grandkids, my great grandkids. I had my great grandmother, so it can happen, and I am open to however long that could be. However, there are some limits to the things we do to reverse age.
Yeah. So steward the best you can, but there are limits, and ultimately you can't stay young forever. Eventually you will die, as we learned in our Ecclesiastes series this last spring.
Well, that got dark at the end there.
It did. Very, very dark. Okay, so that's one thing in the news. I do want to mention one other thing that I brought up last week that's going to segue into our sermon discussion, and I want to come back to aliens. Last week we talked a little bit about aliens, and I was asking Pastor Peter Pendel if he ever spoke about aliens, and there's all these UFO stories. So I mentioned a guy named Hugh Ross on the podcast, and I did actually he's got a book, and it's called Lights in the Sky and Little Green Men, trying to come up with a Christian view of UFOs and extraterrestrials. And the reason I say this ties in with the spiritual warfare series, him and his co-author's thesis is that these UFOs, they're not physical beings from outside the earth. And he's a physicist, so he goes into all the stipulations that are required for life to occur on a planet, and what Earth meets is really a miracle. Wow. So like there's not this evidence that there is life out there. These UFOs, his thesis are that these are interdimensional demonic beings.
Okay.
And, some of the things you hear about them, like even I've heard reporting recently, the way that they can move, like, defies physics. Like, you could not have a carbon-based life form inside of these, or even there's no heat signature. Last week I talked about this guy saying they were flying under the water. Mm-hmm. So he said there's no evidence, at least that they've revealed, that there is physical debris from a UFO craft, but there is, like, impressions in the ground, which sort of, in his mind, lends itself to them, I guess, going in and out of dimensions.
Yeah.
And so this reason it ties into spiritual warfare, because I thought how crazy it is that Paul talks in Ephesians 6 about these rulers and these powers and these principalities, that even when we're talking about UFOs, there's these demonic beings that are around us that we're fighting against.
Yeah.
And there's like thousands of people that have said they've had this, or they feel like they've been abducted and they've been probed, and he says a lot of these people are connected with occultic practices, that when you stop doing that, they stop having these visions.
Wow.
This blew my mind, Delia.
Yeah.
It really is.
So
I'm making my way through the book.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So you got the book.
I got the book. I'm
through
starting to read
It's
through
like
it. It's
Well, I will say,
it's kind of
like,
crazy.
with all of these, my husband likes the sci-fi movies and stuff, and I'm just...
Did you hear that, Stan? She says you like the sci-fi.
The sci-fi.
He likes the
so
sci-fi.
I definitely think that there's a easier way to... believe in it because you see it in the movies. You can imagine it and stuff like that. But it starts to get far beyond my level of understanding when I start thinking about that. But that's an interesting way of looking at it. I've never, kind of.
Well, maybe it's true. And if it's true and they're demons, what better way than to talk about spiritual warfare?
Yes.
So let's pivot onto our spiritual warfare series and tactics. We had a guest speaker yesterday named Chris Ottenstrauer.
You did such a good job pronouncing it.
I think I said your name right, Chris. I was thinking it was pronounced differently, so I think I got it right. So you were here yesterday, Delia. You heard the message. He talked about the shoes of the gospel of peace, and I think some of the things he said I had thought about, but I hadn't thought about in the way recently that he was putting it there. So there's a couple things that stuck out to me, and how about you? I'll let you take a first crack at it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it's amazing that we're having a spiritual warfare discussion. I feel like there's like this feeling that it might be super dark and scary to talk about these things, but I just love the way that we're going through it, and it's just more about being prepared Christians and stuff. So even like yesterday, I was kind of thinking about the things he was saying about the shoes and peace, and I actually wanted to ask you about that specifically. He talked about peace, let me take a step back. He kind of talked about this shod your feet, but didn't really talk about it specifically. Do you have any thoughts on this idea of shodding our feet?
Well, I did look it up before. I think shod is just your feet have been shoed. Your feet have been shod, like you have shoes on your feet. And he talked a lot about the necessity of having the right footwear. And the thing that stuck out to me was the fact that, and he said this at the beginning, I should have the breastplate to protect my heart. I should have a helmet to protect my head. But what's up with the feet? Like, why is that such an important thing? And he said over and over again, Paul says at least 4 times that we should stand, but you can't stand without your feet.
Right. And, I mean, as a mom of 4, there's nothing much more that I say to my kids then, put your shoes on when you go outside, because there are so many things that, talking about a bee sting, last year I was walking through and I got stung on the bottom of my foot.
Oh my goodness. I've had that happen. It's terrible.
I've never felt such excruciating pain, but there is something about, kids not wanting to wear shoes, but they need to be protected from nails, rocks, and it just kind of puts you out, right? If you hurt the bottom of your feet, you can't do anything.
Think about impeding the soldier's ability to fight.
Right.
So he talked about how in warfare, in the Roman warfare, what they would do is they would put like these ancient landmines on the ground that were spikes that were coming up from the ground, that if you didn't have the tough shoe, it would actually go through your foot.
Yeah.
And then you're taken out if you can't move.
Yeah.
Like you're a sitting target. People just come and take off your armor and then take you out.
Yeah. And like the rest of the armor kind of doesn't matter because you're out of the battle.
Right.
Once you're out.
Yes, you're in the infirmary tent.
I think in a lot of ways it's not more important or less important, but equally important when you think about the fact that it keeps you in the battle that you're going
Very
against.
true. Very true. So he talked a little bit also about he said the key was the readiness, the preparedness that's in there. That's when he talked about the spikes on the ground. And he talked about, so let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to stand on the gospel, and he asked the question, where is the world against the gospel? So he talked a lot about marriage images, which, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I do think marriage is one place that Satan is always trying to attack us and break that apart. He also he asked the question too, like, in the culture, people are questioning the idea, can we really rely on the Bible? Like, where do you stand? Is the gospel true? I think Satan is trying to take those things out, because the gospel, and Paul talks about this in Ephesians, is where we get our identity in Christ. And if you take that out, you're right, really nothing else, all the other stuff doesn't really matter.
Right. And even like going through the stuff, some of the content that we did in Content was really about learning to stand firm in our faith in that way. And I think culture more than ever right now is questioning everything about being a Christian. I know as a parent, just doing things a little bit differently than maybe how other people are doing it is something that Stan and I are always talking about. Or there's so much content out there, so much things you can watch or not watch, or listen to or not listen to, and just being faithful in the content that we're watching or hearing. Friendships look different, I just feel like we're really challenged as Christians a lot.
Well, think about it this way, and I think this is the point he's making. If your kids don't believe the gospel and they don't get it deep down in their hearts, really the rest of the armor doesn't matter.
Right.
They're not going to be able to stand.
Right.
And so that should be like there's other things to think about, but that's the most important thing.
Right.
Do you believe in Christ? What did Christ do for you? Do you find your identity there? I think that was what Paul was doing leading up to this final section on warfare. Yeah. So,
and I love the distinction he made about like going out, it being used more in evangelistic way. And so not to think of like these shoes as us just running towards something, but just using them as a protective piece to our faith and to be, ready to withstand. Because sometimes we're not going to be out there sharing the gospel per se, but we're going to be just needing it as a form of protecting our faith.
Yeah, very true. And he did make the point of saying, when you think about the shoes of the gospel of peace, often if you're a Bible student, there's a key passage in Romans 10 quoting Isaiah that says how beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news. And when you think about the shoes of the gospel of peace, that's where my mind goes. But this context, he said, which I think is right, is about warfare. So there is an element of taking the gospel out, of bringing peace to the world. But be careful, because if you go out and you stop believing in the gospel and your peace with God is disrupted, you're not going to be effective in bringing it out. So there is a defensive element to it.
Right. Yeah. And I think the word peace itself. So when I think of warfare, we think about war.
Right.
We don't think peace at all, right? We think of like destruction and arrows being thrown at us. And so I kind of thought that was cool that peace is being used in this sense, because just like in our own Christian walks and faith, when we withstand something that's really hard, or we're going through persecution or suffering, people will say like, but I feel God's peace, or the Lord's given me peace. And like now I kind of like thought of them like digging into their soles of their feet, like Jesus.
It's a cool image.
Jesus is giving me that peace. And so just looking at it a little bit differently in the realm of spiritual warfare versus going out being a peacemaker for the gospel, or whatever other words maybe people think of.
But can you be a peacemaker if you are not first having peace yourself? So I mean, peace, it's on the list of the fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
That's something that happens with inside of us. Not to get too technical, but the Greek word for peace is eirene, and its counterpart in the Hebrew is probably the well-known term shalom, which has the idea of there's peace within me, but it's me bringing peace to others, and so it's kind of a both and. That the gospel of peace must first begin in us, and then it gives a peace to the world that needs to be offered. So there's a component of I need to have peace with God, and then I can have peace with others. And if Satan is trying to disrupt that, I think
Right.
that's one of his key goals.
But what a witness to the other soldiers in battle with you and to the enemy when you see a Christian who is firm in their peace with the Lord,
Right.
and
Right.
they're, struggling through things, or they have the enemy's attack on them and they
Yeah.
have that firmness.
Yeah.
And you're going to see people come and be like, that's
Yeah.
the gospel message in itself, so.
Yeah. Well, he made the point of saying, sometimes people become Christians and they think, well, my life is going to be easier. Like I'm a Christian and now it's going to all be good. And that's really not the way it is.
No.
You're going to actually maybe be attacked even more.
Yeah.
You're now in
Yeah.
a war. But it's the sense that even in the midst of that, I can still have peace because of what God gives to me and how he protects me.
I was thinking about
Yeah.
like also, new Christians, they're like super zealous and excited usually when they.
Well, that's
first
what I'm
are-
saying. Yeah, they think
and it's
nothing
like,
bad's
it's
ever going to happen.
Yeah, and so they're just ready to put the helmet on and the breastplate and run. But it's interesting how it's just a different picture of no, wait, stop, put your shoes on.
Yeah.
Get shod.
you need it
get,
all.
Get shod shod your feet.
Dude, that
before you go.
is a shirt right there. Get shod.
Get shod.
Tim, go and make that. Shod those feet.
It's going
Shod
into
those
my
feet.
it's going into my list of possible merch ideas
Yeah.
for
There
t-shirts.
we go.
so-
Merch.
There we go. There we go. All righty. So great sermon.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Chris, for bringing that, and good discussion there. I did want to leave a little bit of time here before we wrap up. There was a few questions that actually came in, and Tim made some cool slides here. So we do want to address these.
So these are sometimes they're hard. Do you get nervous answering these? Is it something that you?
You know what? I don't get nervous in the sense that if I don't know it, I'm going to tell you I don't know, or I'll give you my best shot. And if I don't know it, either we'll come back to it later on, or we'll write a blog post about it or something.
Yeah.
But I haven't had one yet that I haven't felt like I could at least give some answer to.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So we'll see. So let's see, Tim. What do we got here for questions? So this one came in and it said during VBS. Speaking of VBS
Okay,
week.
I have something to admit here. This is actually a question that I submitted here.
This was from
This
you.
is from me. This
All
is from
right.
me.
So hopefully you thought about the answer and you're ready to answer it.
No. That's what you're here for. I'm just.
All right. Well, why don't you read
all
it
right,
and we'll see what we can do here.
During VBS, one of the kids asked me if she was wrong for fearing forever part of heaven, and it made me think that, like, ever since I was a little kid as well, that's always been something that I struggled with, just thinking of the idea of forever. And so the question is, how can you help us better comprehend the idea of heaven being eternal and never ending, considering that the concept of forever can feel overwhelming or difficult to grasp? Is there a way to explain it in a way that might provide more of an understandable perspective?
Yeah. So here's what I would say, and maybe let me start with an illustration. Francis Chan is really famous. You know Francis Chan has a really famous talk about eternity, and he talks about eternity a lot. And he's got this illustration of a rope, where on the one rope he's got like a piece of tape. I actually did this one time in a sermon. I should have brought it down.
I saw him actually do this. At
Your
his talk.
life is like this little end of the rope, but the rope keeps going on and on and on and on, and yet we think this little piece of the rope is so important. Like, we're so focused on the 60, 70, 80. If you're fortunate, you live 100 years.
Yeah.
Compared to forever.
Yeah.
So we need to live in light of that. But I can understand the point of a girl thinking, man, forever, that's a long time. We can't even comprehend it.
Yeah.
Like, there are things that we don't comprehend as finite beings that are just in the mind of God. Like I think I mentioned this the other week, Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever. And so there are things that are, that only the mind of God can fully comprehend, and this side of heaven we cannot comprehend. So I think part of our fear is the fear of the unknown. Like, what is heaven going to be like?
Yeah.
But I think, Revelation 5, it's this picture of all of us sitting before the throne of Christ, worshiping, and I think we were made to worship and give glory to God. And when you're actually in the presence of Jesus, there is a sense of, like, fear and awe of the creator of the universe and how amazing that is. But also, I think there's going to be this overwhelming sense of like, this is what I was made for.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sense that right now, this side of heaven, because we're not in the state of glorification. So I can understand that. But secondly, the other thing I would say about can you put the question back up? I want to highlight something there, Tim. So the other thing, the question of, I'm going to put my glasses back on. Now I'm getting old. All right, I can't see that from. Help us better understand the idea of heaven being eternal and never ending. And here's the thing that I do think Christians need to understand. So the idea that we have of heaven as being like this, I'm here on earth and then I go to heaven and I'm there forever, is not totally correct. So N.T. Wright is really famous for saying this, that there is, I forget how exactly he says it, but he's got a really famous saying, I can't remember right now, but essentially, heaven is not the end. There will be a new heavens and a new earth where Jesus comes back. That's the thing that continues forever. So he will come back, he will remake the world, and that is what we're with forever. We get new bodies, new heaven, new earth, new everything. That's God's plan for redeeming and remaking his creation. So sometimes people should, like, heaven is almost like this holding tank until Jesus comes back and remakes everything. So I think that we have to understand that point of understanding. I'm really bothered. I can't remember this N.T. Wright thing. I got to look it up while you're talking here.
While you're looking that up, I think there is something to, like, our limited imagination, limited understanding of something, and because God is not limited in the same ways we are, it's hard to reach, especially for kid. Or, I mean, this is something that sometimes, like, if I think so long, like forever and ever and ever,
that's right. Okay,
it seems scary. So, I mean, I love the idea that, one, the Lord is limitless, and so therefore, it can exist. This forever idea, and then also that maybe we're not getting it quite right.
Okay, so the famous quote from N.T. Wright, and this is why I think for a little girl it is scary. Heaven is about life after death. What comes after? And, who's been there? I mean, people have claimed to be there and come back, but what really, like, you haven't experienced? What is life after death? N.T. Wright says, though, it's really about life after death. That's the famous thing. That's the new heavens and the new earth. Life after death. And that's what continues on forever. That's the new heavens and the new earth. So I understand why it's scary, but I think you have to also help them understand why it is also amazing, because you are in the presence of Jesus, and that is what you were made for. That's the reward. The reward is being with Christ.
Yeah. Life after. Say it one more time. Life after.
It's about life after life. So heaven is life after death, but really the thing that's forever is life after death.
Yeah,
That's his really famous.
Cool.
His famous quote. I think Surprised by Hope is the book where he talks about that. And, C.S. Lewis plays a little bit on this in the Chronicles of Narnia. Mm-hmm. So once you get to the last battle, there's this whole, his imaginative sense of what happens when there's a new heavens and a new earth afterwards, and Aslan remaking the world and all that.
I think that's why kids are starting to think about heaven, and kind of it can give them really good pictures of what that might look like and feel like. So.
Let the kids' imagination, go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. All right. So there's a couple other questions we had on there, Tim. So two more questions I think we had. All right. So this question came on Instagram. Is that right, Noah? This is the Instagram one. We did a short post on who is the devil. You can go check that out. It's on YouTube and other social media. And somebody wrote in, I think these next two ones are more skeptical questions. Explain why an all-powerful, all-knowing being would cast out a being, not destroying it, talking about the devil, but allowing it to raise an army to manipulate and condemn many of his own creations to eternal damnation. Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, okay, so I get it if you're a skeptical person and you're thinking that, but that is assuming that the devil actually deceives people. I think one of the things that God allows is this idea of free will. So Adam and Eve are in the garden. They made a choice to disobey. And I think God, out of love, allows us to have the free will to do that. Now, there's a lot of debate, depending on where you are on the theological spectrum, about what free will actually entails. Does God still order the universe in such a way that he is working to allow people to have people choose Like in the sense that we could choose anything, but in reality, God has so ordered things in our life that we're not going to choose differently. That's called compatibilistic free will. And some people think that's not actually free will, but that's more of a reform stance. If you're more of a like Wesleyan theologian, they have something called libertarian free will, which really is you could choose anything, you could choose against God, which I sort of have a problem with because I think it limits God's sovereignty. But the free will is part of this discussion very much here. And so Satan, if you don't know, Satan was an angel in heaven. He rebelled against God. He was cast out, and then God has allowed him, to roam about the earth. But one day, the reality is that he will be defeated. This question, I think, doesn't lend itself to that. But in the end, Satan will be defeated. There will be. We're talking about the new heavens and the new earth. There will be a final battle where once and for all Satan is cast down. He's defeated, and already now Jesus has defeated him on the cross. That's the salvation offer that comes to us. So I think in reality it's very much about the fact that God is still in control and there still is free will that happens in this world, but ultimately in the end Jesus is going to win. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Any follow-up question about that?
Well, I always just think of if we didn't have that free will, we would be maybe like an alien or a robot or something that just did, was programmed to do something. And I just think of God's perfect design that he gave us. All the creativity
out of love,
out of love created us the way that he did so that we can work through things and that ability to come on the other side and say, this I'm having some tension here, but in the end, this is where I'm landing. And that constant tension it's about really growing with the Lord. And not to say that I don't ask similar questions to that or think about those kinds of things, but I just think that the way that God created me to even think those things or to be able to do that is what makes it so much more beautiful.
One of the best things I've heard, I think I heard this in a devotional one time, was that why did God allow the fall in the garden? And the answer this person gave was that without the fall, without experiencing the effects of sin, you wouldn't know the beauty of redemption. Yeah. Which some people might think that's simplistic, but I actually think that's pretty deep. Mm-hmm. How would I know how good it is unless I understood what it was like not to have it? Yeah. So
it's so true.
All right. Okay. So that was that question. Then there's one more, I think, that got written in, a question that came in.
You have two hard ones. Oh, wow. Okay.
No, so that was actually a pretty hard question to talk about pretty quickly. There's a lot to be said there. So maybe we'll do a blog post on this. All right. So this person seemed like they were kind of open. This one came in on the Behind the Pulpit channel and it asked the question, I believe in a higher power, but don't believe any religion has the right idea about God. How would you show faith and trust in the higher power without joining a religion? All right. Well, this is a great question. I think this is, and it's an honest question. Yeah. So there's some thinking about, I believe there's a God, but I'm not sure that anybody has the corner of the market on this. How do I know that Judaism is not right, or Islam, or some of the other occultic things that are out, or the cult type things that are out there? How do I choose between that? So I think kudos for you if you're asking the question, for recognizing that there is a God. That's the first step. Mm-hmm. Some people want to not acknowledge that there's a God. So you believe there's a higher power. That's good. I would say that's only the first part, though. Then you have to start evaluating the truth claims that are made by the various religions. Can they all be true? I don't think so. I think Jesus specifically says, John 14:6, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So Jesus himself makes some very exclusivist claims. So you have to decide whether what Jesus said is true or what Jesus said is not true. And I think if you look at the mountain of evidence that's out there, you will see that the Bible itself stands on a mountain of evidence that has been criticized, that has been attacked, and there's a reasonableness to believe that he is actually who he said he is. So there's a lot more that can be said about that, but I do think if you're asking that question, you've taken the first step. I think now you need to do more work to figure out the truth claims of the different religions and figure out which one is true. I'll give you a really famous illustration about an elephant. Somebody used to... the illustration goes like this. Imagine that there was an elephant in front of you, but you couldn't see it. And you go and you start feeling parts of the elephant. So you might feel the elephant's trunk and think it's a snake. You might feel the foot of the elephant and think it's a tree. And you might feel the tail and think it's something else. But it's only the person who steps back and sees the entire elephant that knows the whole truth. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when it comes to understanding the different religions, all of them are claiming to have truth, but it's only when you take a step back and see the entirety of what's going on that you see the actual truth. And we very much believe Christianity is the truth itself, and so you have to wrestle with that.
And I think if you believe in a higher power, that means that
you're halfway there.
You already have a perspective of what that higher power means for your life. You've already experienced God in a certain way, and to be able to question, is that truth or not truth, I think is like the best place to start and stuff. Yeah. I mean, I remember doing kind of like my own research on different religions, and it coming back to Christianity, really only filling in all of the ways I experience God, the evidence base. Right. It's like a holistic approach to it. And I think Christianity can stand against anything.
Evidence, and just the revealed word of God.
And just the and I have never seen it not come back to Christianity, because it can stand on its own.
God does not need to be defended. That's right.
It stood on its own for so many years, and I think that this person, as the Lord will reveal himself to this person.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
That's awesome.
So that's the challenge. Hopefully that got you started. We're happy to have further conversations about that, but really great questions. Those are awesome.
Those
By the
way,
Tim,
questions.
Can you use any of that for the theology sprint? Do I need to do another one, or did we get
hold on.
we got a 60-second thing in there? Because we're coming to the end here. Oh,
unless you want to leave AI out we could use those, but the one AI got, I think you can tackle in 60 seconds.
Okay,
it's not one of these.
So we are at the theology sprint. I'm waiting for Tim to make a moving graphic with the flash.
I'm working on it. Listen,
there was a lot of theology in this one podcast.
You'd always get questions every week. We got 3 really good questions right here. So hopefully people ask more questions, and we'll dialogue about those.
All right. So first, again, apologies to all the people who saw us on live and then not on live and then live again and then didn't hear us on the live. So we turned off the live, and now we are just recording this and releasing it. Apologize to all you people. Thank you for hanging in there. The theology sprint today from AI, from our friend ChatGPT, is: what is the nature of the Trinity, and how do we understand the concept of the 3 distinct persons in one God?
Oh.
So the Trinity is a hard concept for a lot of people to gather, but here's the thing that we have to affirm. Each person of the Trinity is God, and they each accomplish different roles. So God the Father is the architect of creation, God the Son is the one who earned salvation for us, and God the Holy Spirit is the one who applies salvation to us. Each one of them equally important, equally divine. And that is the huge thing that you have to understand as it regards to the Trinity. It's not 3 gods; it is one God, manifesting himself in 3 persons.
Sweet,
All
thank you,
right.
Bob.
A lot more to be said about that, but again, you're asking me to answer it in 20 seconds.
It's the sprint
down so that when my kids ask me, I have that.
I don't want to get into the substance, the essence, the different creeds. But I will say, though, I probably should have said this too. If you read all of the early church creeds, the Nicene Creed, the Athanasius Creed, the Apostles' Creed, they all emphasize the Trinity. So that was a doctrine that's always attacked and is hugely important for the Christian faith.
As Pastor Dave once said, dig into a creed.
Hey, that's another shirt. Shod your feet, dig into a creed. Boom.
And be a prepared penguin. That's what I got so far.
Yes, Mark was asking about that. All right, are we at the end?
We are at the end for our record-long podcast, but it has been riveting. We finally got there,
questions.
but it was extremely
thanks for
good.
having me.
Thanks
so
for soldiering
fun.
through.
You guys are doing awesome here.
We got to have you back, Delia.
Yes, I'd love to be back.
Awesome. We'll see you next week on Behind the Pulpit.
Bye.